So, hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm so sorry that this is delayed by like a day or so. Since yesterday, there was the eclipse, and I was so lucky to be in Valencia right now, which was one of the best spots in the world to see it. And it was crazy. I actually rented a stand up paddle and paddled out to the ocean with a small group to see the eclipse from there. And it was so cool because it felt like being in a movie. It was like a sunset and a sunrise, but better. And as soon as the moon covered the sun 100%, everything turned dark. And sitting on the ocean while witnessing this was insane. And seeing all the lights turn on in the city, and it was really nice. And it was so quiet suddenly. And then the sun started to come out again. It was like a sunrise, but way more intense. I'm so happy I witnessed that. That was pretty cool. So, on today's episode, I want to talk a bit on how I got into spirituality. Well, let's call it this. And why I think energy is like no joke. So, I know this episode might not be for everyone. And honestly, let's say more than a year ago, this wouldn't have been for me either. Okay, Finn is in the background. Finn, do you want to say hi? Okay. So anyway, what I wanted to say is if you're skeptic, just try and stay with me. I'm not going to try to convince you to believe in anything, but I'm just telling you what happened to me. So in the past, honestly, especially before moving to Bali, I never really came in contact with spirituality in that sense, I would say. I also definitely thought that people who talked about it would be a bit woo and whatever. And honestly, my worldview before moving to Bali, I was a really practical person in this sense. I based all of my decisions, I based it on logic. I never really based a decision. Well, there might have been some decisions in my life, moving to China to study there, or quite a few that were kind of random. And I guess that was my feeling and my intuition. Back then I didn't know. But other than this, most of them were kind of logic. And this is how I grew up. And this is also what gets taught in school, right? To make a list, disadvantage and advantage before you do a big decision, probably outweigh the pros and cons and kind of explain everything by logic. So, well, you probably know that Bali is one of the most spiritual places in the world. And living there, of course, you meet many people who are into spirituality, and in general, the island is based on a whole theme with worshipping their gods, and they have the little offerings. I'm sure you've seen from when you have been in Bali or you saw pictures, and this stands already in the air. And of course, in Bali, there's a lot of retreats, a lot of yoga. There's a lot of spiritual stuff going on, especially if you go to Ubud. And I think everything started with me doing some inner work, me recognizing patterns in my life at some point. I feel like when you stay in Bali, Bali throws a lot of stuff at you, and you're growing so fast while you're there, and you're facing all your shadows, or most of them, or all your patterns really fast while you stay in Bali. And I came to that point where I was like, I want to look into this. I want to get some help on it. So that's actually when I went into therapy. And honestly, I say it so often, but I can recommend it to everyone. If you ever have the chance and if you have the resources and the time to do it, go out and do it. It will change your life. What I wanted to say is that I started to work on myself a lot. I started to understand a lot about myself. I started to actually listen to my body and feel my body. And this also comes with recognizing your intuition and valuing your feelings instead of logic. So I feel like by getting back into my body and feeling my body, I also got back into basing decisions in my life on intuition and feeling. And some people even call this spiritual already, right? What is the definition? Is it everything else that's not explained by logic? Is this spiritual? And while I did all this, I would say, self-work in Bali, I also read many books, and also some were maybe a bit spiritual, of course. The Power of Now, if you have read it. Or I also love everything about that. She's called Tara Swartz. She's a neuroscientist. And I read the books, The Signs. This is also really spiritual. And I love that this book is saying that you just start recognizing the signs in your environment. For example, you keep seeing a certain animal and it has a meaning for you, or you keep seeing numbers or random things. And since I started doing it, it's so much fun, I tell you. I keep posting about it on Instagram once in a while. And I can tell you so many stories about it. Even sitting in this apartment now, you see all the wood beams on top. Some month ago, I visited a construction site. Someone I met, he built a house and he invited us to view his site. And there was a big box of a tool he used to renovate standing on wooden beams. And it said in black letters, "This is what you get." And it was the only thing in this house. And it was such a big sentence. And I looked at it, and sometimes you look at things and you know they immediately, they have a value, like, this is for you, this is for you. And I looked at it and I remember I took a picture and I was like, okay, let's see. And now I'm in Valencia and I randomly found this apartment. Not randomly, it was meant to be, right? But look at this. I posted about it on Instagram. I think that's crazy. And I have so many stories of these things happening to me and I love it. And it makes life kind of fun. And I guess many people would call this spiritual already, right? You believe in a higher force, something that's really not logic. And I love this sentence when people say, you know, Wi-Fi, we are using the internet. It's somehow something we cannot see, but we're still using it. So what about energy? What about all the spiritual stuff? Why don't we believe in that? Because this is also something we cannot see in that form. I like comparison a lot, actually. And I've also been to tarot readings. I have to say I have a mixed feeling towards them because obviously there's also the fact that whatever you put into your subconscious mind kind of becomes reality. And if you accept this, what someone else tells you, and you put it into your subconscious mind, it kind of also becomes true in a sense. So about tarot readings, I'm always a bit, yeah. But also, on the other hand, I love pulling tarot cards myself, and sometimes I do it, and they are always really accurate. And let me talk a bit about what I mean by energy in that sense. Actually, life is a mirror, and whatever you put outside comes back to you. And I've recently noticed, you probably have noticed it as well, if you go out and you have a good day, you feel good, and you smile at people, usually people would smile back. Of course, if you're in Germany or whatever, sometimes people don't smile back. But most of the time, if you're friendly, the other person will be friendly as well. If you're open-minded, the other person will be open-minded as well. And this is what I mean with energy, that whatever you bring out will come back to you as well. And there's also the thing, if you think you can't do something, if you think you can't do it and you already have this mindset, this will show in real life. And you probably had this for sure happening to you as well. As when you go out, when you leave your house and you're already in bad mood, let's say you woke up and you spilled the coffee and you're already in kind of a bad mood and you're like, oh, today everything goes wrong. And then I tell you, 90% of the time, there's so many other things that go wrong this day because you're already in this energy of negativity. I noticed this so many times in my life, and this is what I mean. Energy is no joke. You put it out and it comes back to you. I also have to say that I start noticing signs in my body so much faster. Whenever I'm with someone, spending time with a person that doesn't really match my nervous system, I noticed I will have stomach cramps. And it's so funny. I started noticing by actually writing everything down. This is why I say journaling is so great. You literally write everything down. And whenever I have some physical symptoms, let it be a sore throat, stomach cramps, whatever, I would write it down in my journal and make a little sign so I can find it more easy later on. Since I do it, I also start noticing patterns. And the crazy thing is, and maybe people would call this spiritual as well because medicine doesn't explain it yet. The thing is that your body knows and your body is sending you cues all the time. And if you're in your brain, if you're thinking everything with logic, you will ignore these signs. if a situation is not for you, if a person is not for you, whatever, your body will know first. And maybe your mind will catch up later, but your body will always know first. Let's say you're always getting sick at a certain time of the year or whatsoever. These are all signs of the body. This is not normal. We are not designed to fall ill. So I feel like I scratched the surface level of my own, let's call it spirituality. I could probably come up with so many other examples, but I will leave this for now. I'm not going to ask you to believe in this as well. I'm just going to share my experience and how I live life now, and that it actually, for me, it works pretty well. And maybe you want to start trying for yourself, noticing if there's any signs you repeatedly keep seeing, any feelings in your body that keep coming up in certain situations. Just start noticing it. And next week, the topic will be, I will talk about something that I think is one of the most underrated reasons people don't get where they want to go in their lives. And count me in, I'm struggling with the same things. But this is about delayed gratification, consistency, and what it actually takes to make something work. Yeah, so see you next Wednesday, hopefully. Otherwise, Thursday or Friday, but I'll try to keep it Wednesday.